share tips on how to improve not just your financial health, but your mental, social, spiritual, intellectual, and like today's episode, your physical health. It's a bit of a strange one. It's our first ever episode where we had one of our guests recruit the other guests. So Tyler's going to be our main guest here of honor, and we're going to talk about how to improve your physical health with psychedelics. It's going to be a wild one. If you've never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental belief that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. We are on a mission here at Millionaires Are Made to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest, happiest version of themselves they can possibly be. And in the spirit of authenticity, we don't talk about tips or advice backstage before we go live. So when our guests tell you their tip, it's the first time I hear it too. We've got 3 awesome guests that are going to give us 3 awesome tips on how to improve your physical health with psychedelics. Audience, want to shout out a couple of our followers. Also remember, this is an interactive show. Please comment, ask questions. We will answer them live on air for you and respond to your comments as well. Shout out to, on Facebook, Shayla Smith, Instagram, Nolan Voss, TikTok, Brinkley, and YouTube, Janelle Davis. Thank you all so much for following us. We love it. If you want to get shouted out, all you got to do is follow us. If you want to be a guest on our show, we highly encourage that. We love having guests from all around the world, everywhere possible. The link is being dropped right now. Check it out. Sign up, be a guest, and come be on our show sharing your little piece of advice with the world. If you have a topic we haven't covered or one that we have and you want a new 3 guests, let us know. We're always looking for topic ideas. We'd love to have your help think of what we should do for our next show. We do a lot of shows. We're episode 143, so we definitely need more topic ideas. And if you love what we do, please show some love to us. Like, share, subscribe, send stars, whatever you're doing, wherever you're watching. And I also love giving even more info out. I do offer free one-on-one growth sessions if you'd love to get together and talk one-on-one. That link's being dropped right now. One more announcement. It's awesome. We finally have merchandise, t-shirts, mugs, all that cool stuff. Go check it out right now. That link's being dropped. Show some love, buy a t-shirt, save the world. Easy as that. And this episode is brought to you by 4 awesome brands. Our first one is Craig Sokowski, a human behaviorist and mentor. He helps all the entrepreneurs in the world discover their true identity, purpose, and achieve growth in business and life. Go check him out. Say hi. Follow him on Insta. Sarah Jones, crazy awesome story. Unhappy in her marriage. Buried in debt. Eventually took a deep breath. Changed her entire life. Learned everything about money. And now teaches others how to have an awesome financial foundation where money works for them and not against them. And now she's just living with her husband. Traveling in like a giant RV with a trailer, with a car, with a motorcycle. All sorts of stuff. Traveling the U.S. Living their best life. Also brought to us this episode is brought to you by Cam Knight, who is a strategic thinker turned career uncertainty after getting fired, went focused past the CPA exam, and decided learning and intelligence is a skill, not a gift. So now Cam's on a mission to empower others to learn faster, think sharper, and achieve more. And our final sponsor for this episode is Jeremy Roderick. Jeremy is the author of Lead Like a King. He's a huge coach to dads and husbands that refuse to settle for a life of mediocrity, frustration, or quiet resentment. Most men think marriage, parenting, and success is a grind and an unwinnable game, but the truth is you just weren't given the right tools. Jeremy will teach you all of that in his book, Lead Like a King. Feel free to go check him, follow him out, and say hello. And that brings us to our very first guest, the lovely Julianne. Julianne, tell us, who are you?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the offer to be here. My name is Julianne Mejia. I am the CEO and founder of Holistic Hemp Solutions. I worked in traditional medicine. I had a background in psychology with a concentration in cognitive neuroscience and research. Sadly, I was injured on the job by a client and was put through the ringer with the opiates. Not only did they not work well for my body rejected them. I did really poorly with them. So I had to really look for an alternative way to heal. So I have found not only psychedelics to be very therapeutic for a number of facets of my life, but cannabinoid therapies as well. I'm an inventor. I have international patent pending cannabinoid products, and we just want to try to help the world heal as naturally as possible. So that's a
I
little
love
bit.
it. Awesome, Julianne. All right, I've got an interesting question for you.
Sure.
If I wanted to improve my physical health with psychedelics, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I would say that because if we're looking at something like psilocybin, for example, that is a natural serotonin and dopamine booster. Because of that, not only does it affect mental health, but your body as well. So it does help with balancing hormones. Um, it helps regulate pain, gut health. So there's a number of different molecules within the plant-based medicines that are available to the public that can actually help with a variety of different health conditions and really just clean up on a cellular level disease, different things. So
I love it. Julianne, you told us a little bit about your past. Tell us a little bit more. How did you come to find this advice?
After being put through all the traditional pharmaceuticals and having them fail, I had to really look outside the box. Coming from a research background, I started researching as much as possible. So I started looking at rare minor cannabinoids. Some of them were psychoactive. And then in regards to even dealing with the compounding pharmacy, I was put on compounding ketamine, oral tropes, and topical ketamine as well. So, I did try a number of different facets of products ranging from pharmaceuticals to plant-based products. And, personally, I found that the natural products did better for my body and I was able to heal with them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julianne. We're going to move on to our next guest, Tyler, and we'll bring you back out in the round robin. What's up, Tyler? Who are you? You're muted. I think you're muted, Tyler.
I was muted. My bad.
Let's try that again. Tyler,
yeah.
Who are you?
Well, I want to start with thanks for having me on. Again, starting with a disclaimer, I'm not like a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a millionaire yet. But I am a psychonaut, so I'm pretty well versed on all things psychedelia. I'm excited to be here and be able to talk about this stuff.
Awesome. Did you say you're a psychonaut?
A psychonaut, yes, sir. I pulled a definition. A psychonaut is someone who intentionally explores and investigates their own psyche and consciousness, often through altered states of consciousness induced by techniques like lucid dreaming, sensory deprivation, meditation, or the use of psychoactive substances for spiritual, scientific, or research purposes.
Sounds perfect. All right, Tyler. I got an important question for you. If I wanted to improve my physical health with psychedelics, what piece of advice would you give me?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a long time, and I've narrowed it down to 5 tenets of psychedelia, and people are familiar with 3 of them. But I started off with intention, which I really liked that you talked about intention in the description for this podcast. That is the basis of whatever you're doing with life. So it's not just psychedelia too. A lot of these things apply to life as well. So intention is the first one. And then the next 3 people are usually familiar with. It's set, setting, and dosage. And then the 5th one is integration. So bringing it all back around, what you learned from the psychedelic experience and integrating it into your life.
All right. So five facets. Fascinating. Tell us more about them. Where'd you learn these? Did you come up with it yourself?
Well, set setting and dosage, I'm not really sure where that came from. It's like a staple in psychedelia. Set is, your internal setting is like the easiest way to think of it. Setting is people are usually pretty familiar with, um, like where you are physically, what's around you, that sort of thing. But that's also like an internal state of like, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you upset? Have you eaten recently? So that's kind of the set piece. And dosage, are you taking like a milligram of psilocybin or are you having like a full ounce of mushrooms, sort of thing? So those have been around for a long time. I'm not really sure where I came into them, probably somewhere in my 20s, which is when I really started experimenting with psychedelics. And the intention just came to me actually through like it was kind of forced on me. I was doing a microdosing with LSD experiment with myself, and I actually developed migraines because I didn't have an intention. I was just like, I want to really see what this is about. And then I started getting migraines, and luckily through like a more intentional microdose protocol, I was actually able to get rid of them. So that was kind of forced on me. And then integration is something that a lot of psychedelia will talk about too, as far as sometimes they'll say, like, when you get the message, hang up the phone. And so, maybe get away from the psychedelics and the plant medicines and stuff and really like sit with yourself and try to learn what you can from the experiences you've already had.
Awesome, Tyler. All right, we have a lot more questions when the round robin comes. But until then, we're going to move on to our next guest. Next
Cool.
up, we have Allison. Allison, who are you?
Hey, I am a global cannabis and drug law reform activist, and I'm a 61-year-old woman who has the intention to legalize and regulate drugs all around the world. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and I
Ooh.
actually have been in drug law reform for well over 30 years in Canada. I'm one of the first legal cannabis patients from 1994 in our country. And I have been fighting ever since for all drugs to be legalized and regulated. And I will tell you why soon.
Great, great. I love that. Well, I do have a very important question, Allison. If I wanted to improve my physical health with psychedelics, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I would say start low and go slow because people don't realize psychedelics can hit you pretty fast and pretty hard. So, again, whether you're having a small dose or a large dose, and for whatever reason, I use these substances as medicine. And I again learned from starting low, and I've gone up over the dose in my doses over the years because of that, because of learning to start low and go slow with my doctors and teaching everybody.
Go low, go slow. All right.
Start
So you
low,
touched on
go.
that a little bit you touched on that with your doctors a little bit, but let's hear a little bit more. Where on your life journey did you learn this advice?
You know what? Again, I've been a medical cannabis activist since 1994 globally. So, again, as one of the first patients in Canada who used cannabis, I knew as psilocybin was introduced to me and as medicine that I had to go slow and start low. So, I knew again that I didn't know what I was dealing with. There was no information available 30 years ago when I was using magic mushrooms with my doctors. We were all reaching out for help everywhere and there was nothing and nobody to kind of turn to. So we ended up experimenting ourselves. And my doctors told me that magic mushrooms or psilocybin is safer than cannabis. So again, I knew doing all the research I did that I wasn't going to harm myself more than I was already with cannabis, if I was even harming myself with cannabis.
Fascinating. All right, we'll talk more about that in a second. But first, let's bring everyone out. Audience, this is a great time to ask some questions. We're going to bring everyone out here for our round robin. Whew. All right.
Woohoo.
All right. Let's start it off easy. Julianne, can you quickly refresh what your tip was for us?
So you didn't ask me my tip, but my tip is going to be meditation. I think that is a huge piece to not only mental health, but physical health as well. Just calming the parasympathetic nervous system and just, calming your overall body, to a state of relaxation and calming. Whether you're using psychedelics or not, that is a huge free way that you can tap into not only physical, good physical health, but mental health as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Tyler, what are your thoughts on her tip?
Oh, I love it. I think meditation for me was like my real introduction to psychedelia. And I think a lot of people in the space do not do that enough.
Ooh, smart. Allison, what are your thoughts on her tip?
I honestly think meditation is essential when you're actually battling any illness and any form of health crisis. I think if you don't meditate, you don't even understand where your body is at that time. And how could you ever possibly hope to be in homeostasis one day if you don't meditate?
Nice. That's huge. Tyler, can you quickly refresh what your tip was for us?
Yeah, it's the 5 tenets of integration or of psychedelia, I call it. Intention, setting, dosage, and integration.
All right. Allison, what are your thoughts on Tyler's tip?
Hey, I think that's amazing because setting is so important. If you're out at a party and you're with a bunch of friends and you're, in the mood where you want to have some fun, that's what setting is all about. If you're at home and you're having a therapeutic dose of whatever it is that you've decided to try, then that also involves setting because again, you're at home, you're comfortable, you're in surroundings that you're aware of. I think it's really important, etc. And dosage, amazingly important. Good tip, Tyler.
Julianne, what are your thoughts on Tyler's tip?
I think they're excellent and they're key components of using either a macro dose or a micro dose.
Yeah.
Everything in this world we should do with intent. You have to put it out there into the universe, what you're looking to do. If you're looking to heal, you want to definitely say that before each of your dosages. So I think those are phenomenal tips. Dosaging is huge as well. You as the patient have to decide what you're comfortable with. If a macro dose is not accessible, if you can't take that big chunk of time out, then maybe, the microdose route is a better option for most people. So it's really a matter of preference and what you're able to commit to for time for your healing. So that's my thought.
Start low, go slow.
Absolutely. Again, if you're new to psychedelics, whether it be trying, a cacti or psilocybin mushroom, you absolutely, everybody's body is different and process these products differently. So you need to start at a small dose, work your way up and see where your threshold is for your body in processing these plant-based materials.
Love it. All right, Allison, you said start slow, start
Low,
Holy
go slow.
Yeah, there you go. Tyler, what are your thoughts on Allison's tip?
I love it. I'm a big advocate of education, and that's just super solid advice. You can always take more. It's much harder to take away.
Yes.
Julianne, what's your thoughts on her tip?
I think it's phenomenal. I think, again, a lot of times people, they're not familiar with psychedelics. They take a macro dose and a lot of people are put off by a higher dose and they're scared. So again, starting out small is huge. And I think that's a beautiful way to put and, compartmentalize everything for the patient. That's awesome.
I love it. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty. Allison, tell me how psychedelics have improved your physical health.
Hey, I battle primary progressive multiple sclerosis, and I apologize. Right now, I have the worst pain known to medicine called tic douloureux circling the orbit of my left eye, and it's giving me a little bit of trouble. But psychedelics have turned my life completely around, in so much so that I've been in an electric wheelchair. I'm on my third electric wheelchair right now, and I've had them since I've been in my 20s, and I'm 61 years old, and I'm still on my feet because of things like psychedelics. Magic mushrooms, the first time I used them, I went to my doctor. I could not believe the energy I had and how it shot me out of my wheelchair and got me walking. That's my huge tip for everybody, is when you use these things as medicine, you never know the miracle that's going to happen.
Oh, double tip. I like that. You never know the miracle that's going to happen. All right, Julianne, tell me a little bit more on the physical side of things, on how psychedelics can help people.
Well, for me personally, I notice when I take a microdose, if I'm having physical trouble, I do get that pain relief. I get the serotonin and dopamine boost, which gives me that energy that I need. And it's an uplifting feeling. So I have another tip for people as well. A lot of times when patients consume psychedelics, even microdose, right? If we're talking about psilocybin, for example, it can be very overstimulating for people. So if you're using caffeine with your psilocybin, that might be something to look into if it's overstimulating for people. And that's a really important tip for a lot of people, because a lot of times they can't decipher what's making them feel a certain way. So a lot of people will call me. They're like, "Oh, well, I feel like really jittery." And I ask them, I'm like, did you have coffee today? Did you have tea? So, a lot of times it can be overstimulated for some people because, again, it's your body's ability to process these plant-based materials.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And fungal.
Right? Exactly.
Tyler, what are your thoughts? Let's hear your experience is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been struggling with GI issues for the past 5-6 years. I think kind of brought on by having to skirt the system and using some of these medicines. But one of the things that I've noticed, not just in myself, but in a lot of people that use psychedelics, is this trend towards cleanliness. And I think it kind of starts with, oh, I want to make sure like my LSD is the most pure. I don't want any other like things like that. But then it evolves into like this health consciousness, this like mental clarity consciousness of, cleaner food, consuming less programming, for lack of a better term, but like this desire for a just like cleaner, healthier lifestyle.
Hold on, Tyler. You're saying that because you want your drugs so clean, now you want your food that clean?
Yeah, and I mean it goes into all drugs, not just like the stuff that you're getting at the concert or the party or whatever, but your medication that you take for diabetes, which I know Julianne can talk a little bit more about. But just in the food that you eat too, you start reading the ingredients on packages and you're like, what is all this stuff I can't pronounce? You end up at Sprouts and you're like, oh, here's a bunch of holistic stuff that is gonna be good for my body, that my body can process.
That's actually super fascinating. I mean, we could talk about that for a while, how caring about where your let's say recreational medicine comes from. I mean, even so, okay, we're taking this a little off to a tangent. Thank you, Tyler. So even down on my little island, right, cannabis, the quality, I will not use any cannabis here. It's so bad quality. You like just look at it, it makes you like cringe, right?
Wow.
It's fascinating that you tied that into food. Because now when I just went back to Denver, and I mean, some of the food there, it made me cringe too. It's like, oh my gosh. Oh, good point, Tyler. I am going to stop you there though, because we do have some questions lining up. So we're going to take it back to the negative here. We've got a question. Are there any known, which there, let's make this really apparent that we are not doctors. This is not medical advice. And there is limited research on all topics being discussed right now. But are there any known physical side effects or risks associated with psychedelic use outside of like hitting your head on something? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, yeah, go ahead, Allison.
I just want to tell people one thing I've noticed with psilocybin is that you do get an upset tummy after you take it. And the more you take, you may actually vomit. So that's one of the things with psilocybin that is an issue. But again, if people can make it through that, then they can certainly, enjoy the rest of the, journey, I guess, that they want to go on. So, but again, to be aware again that, some of these things can make you very sick. But again, there's excellent medicine afterward that is involved.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do you think? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to put out to the viewers today that there is a lot of research about a lot of these plant-based materials. I really suggest going to microdosinginstitute.com. You can check out all the research associated with a number of different conditions, physically and mentally, on that website. And the research is all in one spot.
Excellent.
Nice. So that site brings together research from all the countries?
Correct.
All around the
Hopefully,
world.
whatever they can find. Nice.
Yep.
Go ahead, Taylor. You had your finger raised.
Yeah. I want to echo that, like, research. I mean, even just going to your local library, like your local librarian can help you find a lot of this and access these research. Like if you have a condition that you think might benefit from psychedelics, you can start there and you can find out a lot. But one thing that I really want to talk about is the bad trip, because that's like the most commonly known risk, I guess, of taking psychedelics.
Yeah, and that's great.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a real thing. A lot of people like to call them difficult experiences, and I kind of fall into that camp because I believe that even in those like difficult experiences, bad trips, there's a lot to learn that maybe is really hard to face. And with that caveat too of, there is a lot of mental health issues that can be exacerbated by psychedelics as well, or helped, but it goes back to that intention, setting, dosage, and integration, and how you deal with the bad trip.
Real quick, Allison, I'm going to point out, if you've never used psychedelics or you're thinking about it, or this show is encouraging you to do it, definitely find people that are experienced with it. Diving into psychedelics alone is probably something I would not recommend to virtually anyone. All right, go ahead, Allison.
I was just going to say, using psilocybin as medicine, I've also used LSD and raw opium and all of these substances through my doctors with doctor's authorization. I have never had a bad trip myself, but I can see again, the set and setting is so important, because again, that's why people, I think, have bad trips, is because they're in the wrong set. They have the wrong setting. They're in the wrong mindset. You have to be ready you have to be open to what these substances offer you. And I think that's the tricky part. If you're fighting it, then you're going to have a bad trip.
Surrender, for sure.
And to go back to the viewer's question, Life, known physical side effects, I would say, first off, I mean, each psychedelic is going to be different. If you consider cannabis a psychedelic, even within cannabis strains are going to have different physical side effects. So virtually like with anything you put in your body, I would do the research and check beforehand. Make sure you know where it's coming from, where it's grown. Some places are much more mature. Colorado, you can find great psilocybin and great cannabis. It's all been tested and researched, all that kind of stuff. If you're buying it on the streets of Uganda, then maybe you don't want to, you want to know a little more about that. So just about anything can be researched. We're going to move on to our next question here. How can psychedelics like psilocybin impact weight loss through behavioral or physical changes? And what are the potential risks and benefits? That's a fantastic question.
Beautiful.
Definitely. Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's do Allison first, and then we'll do Julianne.
Hi, I just want to say that again, psilocybin gives me so much energy and pops me out of my wheelchair that you can lose weight like everybody else, like myself and all these other people, because it keeps you active, it gets you on your feet, and it makes you busy. And that's just psilocybin.
Cool.
Oh, no,
Julianne, would you?
cannabis. Sorry, and cannabis.
Okay.
I'd say, like, going back to Tyler's point, it does affect the gut biome, which in turn is going to either if you're eating crap, it's going to, tell you to eat more or less, right? So it does kind of reposition your gut biome to healthier choices. It does clean up a lot of that bad bacteria and the lining of the biome and stuff like that, which in turn, can lead to healthier choices. But I think, to Allison's point, the energy effects as well, the upliftingness to it, and the motivation that it brings. If we're talking about psilocybin, for example, I think that's a huge motivating factor to exercise.
And the mental positivity, because it makes you really positive.
Exactly.
Makes you really happy, psilocybin does. That's the one thing I've noticed. And my doctors, Julie and Austin and Tyler, just interrupt, told me there is nothing wrong with your medicine making you happy.
No, that's great. That's true. I'd say everybody's scared to try natural substances. I'd say if you're really scared about it, look at your traditional pharmaceuticals and what they're putting in it. That will really scare you.
That's scary.
Yeah, if we talk about antidepressants versus microdosing, if I were on antidepressants, I would. If you're on antidepressants right now, I would research heavily microdosing with psilocybin. Very, very. Even with cannabis, There's depression is something that these drugs, recreational, whatever medicines definitely can help with. So if you are facing depression, I would look into microdosing and cannabis. All right, we're on to another question. What are your thoughts on the potential of psychedelics in treating age-related diseases like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's?
Awesome.
Can I
go first on this one?
Let's have Tyler start this one.
You bet.
All right. There is a ton of research on these topics from a little institution. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's called Johns Hopkins University. They've been doing this research since the 90s with psilocybin specifically, but there is a ton of research for psychedelics and all sorts of degenerative neurological diseases. So if that is we can't address it all, but the benefits do seem to be really good overall.
Okay, go Allison.
Austin, I have to. There's a video on the internet that I just posted again, reposted, about a man with Parkinson's who actually had a friend come over with a cannabis cigarette or cannabis oil, pardon me, and literally gave him a cannabis oil capsule, sat him down on his couch. Within minutes, the man stopped shaking violently. He could actually grasp his cup that was on the table in front of him that he couldn't get a few minutes before. He got up and he walked across the room, and his demeanor, his whole physical body changed from just cannabis.
Absolutely.
The better.
I could go over stories with cannabis for 16 hours. Physical health and cannabis would just be me alone talking about 15 years in the industry. I remember, we used to have patients that never had an expiration on their medical cards because the state of Colorado determined that they would not make it a year, and then they'd be around 4 or 5 years later. Those were cool days. All right. Cool. We have no more questions, and we are significantly beyond our time. So let's start wrapping this up. We need to come up with a daily challenge. This is a task or series of tasks that will help us improve our physical health with psychedelics. It must take less than 5 minutes a day. It must cost $0, and it must be available to everyone in the world from Tanzania to Thailand. what thoughts do you guys have?
You bet. Can I go first again, Austin?
Yeah, let's just brainstorm. Let's work together.
So excited. My tip is physical, but it's also mental. What I want people to do, and this is one thing that I've asked people to do around the world for decades as a global activist, is research your information. So research the substance for sure. That's a mental thing. And then not only get up, get a pen and write your members of Congress, your members of federal office, and tell them how, again, you would like to see psychedelics studied for whatever it is that you feel they need to be studied for. But get out there and get active with a pen, my friends.
That's
All right. Any other tips?
I have some thoughts.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Tyler, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine.
Going back to meditation, the other piece to that is frequencies is a huge healing mechanism. And especially when you're collaborating those with psychedelics, that can be a really powerful thing. It's free. It's not time consuming. You can take a few minutes a day to listen to frequency healing, chakra cleansing, that kind of stuff, in conjunction with your psychedelic usage. And I think it's going to take a lot of people to the next level. So that's my thought.
You bet.
Meditation and frequency. Fascinating. Okay, Tyler, what's your thoughts?
I love both of those a lot. I mean, yeah, we talked a little bit about the research, but especially being like active and, sharing your experience. That is far and away the most helpful thing I've found with psychedelia in general is being, and I know it's not maybe accessible in some places where the legality is a little questionable, but being able to just like be that person for your community is really helpful. The meditation and sound healing, I think, is also great. And sound healing too can just be music that you like, getting up and dancing and being active in that sort of way, I think is awesome. But I think the meditation is probably one of the most accessible ways to kind of get started with this, and one of the best skills that you can have going into the psychedelic experience too, of that like acceptance of your thoughts, of what's going on around you. I know Allison talked a little bit about that being like a great saving grace from like keeping her from the bad trips. So, for 5 minutes a day, I don't know if there's much better that you can do to get ready for this sort of thing for your physical health besides meditating. So yeah, I think that's would be my vote is just meditate for 5 minutes a day.
Okay, we got some ideas. So I'm going to try to bring this extremely basic, right? This is a topic that I would say is not very common to anyone in the world. And it's probably, psychedelics are only legal in maybe 10 countries. So let's definitely focus on some research. So for that, I think that we should, I like that Tyler said sharing stories. So if you've never done psychedelics, you're obviously not going to share shit. First off, all of you should be following these three. That's a good start. But I think that we should try. I kind of want to incorporate like medical research with following. Maybe people don't want that on their feed. Maybe you go watch a YouTube video on the benefits of that. But this is super biased. Let's think here. And then Julian, I also like your sound frequency. How can we incorporate meditation sound frequency for like 2.5 minutes and then 2.5 minutes of like research? I kind of want people to like see that like research, like John Hopkins, people are actually researching this. All the like, especially cannabis in Israel, there's tons of like real research for it. And some against it, obviously. That's how all research is done.
That's how we learn.
And then there's people that are getting their lives changed. Not just all three of you, but specifically Allison. So how do we turn all that into a fucking daily challenge?
Yes.
I have an idea. There's a genre of music called Chill Step, and you can find it on YouTube, and it integrates kind of all of them together. It's a lot of like samples of Alan Watts, of Terence McKenna, of these people who are well researched and well studied. It's got the sound. It's like very like ambient, easy listening. They're not usually 5 minutes long. They're usually like an hour or longer. But
what's it called, Tyler?
Chill Step.
Chill Step.
Julianne, do you have any suggestions on frequency, healing, or usage during meditation?
So to answer your full question, my thought would be take 2 minutes before you start your meditation. Go online, go to microdosinginstitute.com, where all the research you can pinpoint by different types of illness or any type of targeted approach, whether it's neurological or physical or depression, whatever you're looking for, it's there. Take 2 minutes a day, and then take 3 minutes and listen to sound frequencies and healing sound frequencies. You can find them anywhere for free.
Healing sound frequencies. And I have so many spelling errors right now.
That's 5 minutes.
Ayahuasca, psilocybin. What other psychedelics are there?
There's psilocybin. There's cacti, peyote, and San
I got those.
LSD.
PCP.
I can't even think right now. Ayahuasca.
I mean, DOM. There's a lot of 2Cs. There's a DO is kind of like its own classification too. There's DOB, DOC. I mean, you can just hop on like a Psychonaut wiki forum, and there's a list. Just keeps going and going and going.
All right, I think I've got our daily challenge. So, first thing you're going to do is read the abstract of a research study. That'll probably take you like 30 seconds to a minute. They're going to watch a small YouTube video about a psychedelic. You can choose whatever the fuck you want. Educational, if you want to just watch a silly one, whatever. That's probably another minute. Then we're going to spend the rest of the time meditating, listening to healing sound frequencies.
Beautiful. That's huge.
I love it.
That sounds like a solid. Are these even legal? Well, it depends on where you live.
They should be. They should be legal everywhere. This is a human rights violation. Our ancestors have been consuming plant-based medicines for thousands of years safely.
I forgot ibogaine too.
And we've been fighting for this in Canada and all around the world for decades. We want all drugs legalized and regulated, off the street, out of the hands of children, and away from the criminals once and for all.
Cool. All right. So I forgot ibogaine. I don't know if you guys know ibogaine, but I'm actually gonna be flying to Gabon, where it's 80% produced in October, to go learn more about it.
Right on.
Very cool.
Yeah. Ibogaine's another one. Cool. All right. Well, we are officially done. TEDx. Are these even legal? Depends on where you live. Cannabis, psilocybin are legal in multiple states in the U.S. Cannabis is legal in multiple countries. Psilocybin's legal in Canada. Is that right, Allison? Or is it medical?
It's not yet. Okay. It's only medical that's been supported.
Okay, so
and it's not even fully supported because I'm not legal, Austin.
Well,
not in Canada.
Don't watch this DEA of Canada.
Authorized, but I'm not legal. That's why I'm fighting with my lawyers, my friend.
Okay. So, and then obviously ayahuasca is legal in Peru. You can go down and do that. Ibogaine's legal in parts of Africa.
That's another thought too. There are places in the U.S. that have legal religious freedoms to use some of these plant-based medicines. And if anybody
those are on reservations mostly, right?
No, not necessarily. Like, for example, I interviewed Derek Janajewski. He owns the Pachamama Retreat Center. It's an ayahuasca retreat center in Maine. They have religious backing. Yeah, so, there are places in the U.S. that you can go and experience these psychedelic plant.
I know there's a couple in Arizona and Florida for ayahuasca/peyote. So I guess you can Google it and figure it out. I don't know what country you're in, Ted, but you'll just have to do some research, like our daily challenge, and figure that out.
Like we did.
Yeah, you'll have to figure that out. But also, I mean, follow all three of these guests. They all know a lot more than most people in this world about this. So if you need help, feel free to follow them. We're going to wrap the show up. Thank you so much, guys, for coming out. Woohoo!
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Tyler, Julianne,
Hey,
and
so
Allison.
join the journey.
Awesome, and thank you all for watching. What an amazing episode. I hope you learned a lot. That was a unique one, a fun one, and our first ever one put together by a guest. Psychedelics, super beneficial if used correctly, as with most things in this world. Definitely do your research. I don't really consider cannabis a psychedelic, but I do know cannabis has crazy, insane physical health benefits. We didn't even talk about it. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-show, but the endocannabinoid system and the thousands, I think they have like 276 cannabinoids discovered as of right now that all help your body. And now they're finding that all these other naturally made psychedelics, psilocybin, ibogaine, ayahuasca, peyote, that have been used for thousands of years are beneficial to you physically. Again, do your research, figure it out on your own. Ask us, ask our guests, talk to people that know what they're talking about, and go explore, enjoy, and never forget,